Clowns. They're supposed to be symbols of joy, laughter, and fun. But what happens when that innocent smile hides something much darker? Imagine a man who not only performed as a clown at children's party, but was also a trusted community figure, involved in charity and local events. Yet beneath that mask was a chilling monster, responsible for one of the most horrific killing sprees in U.S. history. His name was John Wayne Gacy, and his legacy would forever be tied to terror, deception, and unimaginable cruelty. John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown, not only terrorized young boys, but also hid his crimes for years, right under the noses of friends, family, and law enforcement. What made him so terrifying wasn't just the sheer number of lives he took, but how he managed to do it while leading a seemingly normal life. Let's dive into the life, crimes, and the twisted duality of this infamous killer. Born in Chicago in 1942, John Wayne Gacy grew up in a dysfunctional household. His father, an alcoholic, constantly belittled him, calling him weak and effeminate. Yet, despite these struggles, Gacy seemed to grow into a man of the community. As an adult, Gacy built a seemingly successful life. He married, became a father, and started his own construction business, employing many local young men. He was also deeply involved in community organizations, even running for local office. Most notably, Gacy became known for his alter ego, Pogo the Clown, a character he created to entertain children at hospitals, charity events, and parties. To those around him, Gacy appeared generous, caring, and hardworking. He hosted block parties that were attended by hundreds, including local politicians. He seemed like the last person anyone would suspect of wrongdoing. But beneath this facade of normalcy, Gacy's urges were becoming harder to suppress, and soon they would spill out into a series of dark and deadly actions. In 1972, Gacy committed his first known murder. He targeted young men and boys, often those who were vulnerable, like runaways or kids looking for work. Many victims were lured with promises of a job at Gacy's construction company or simple companionship. Once inside his home, Gacy would engage them in what he called a handcuff trick, a method he used to restrain his victims. But what happened next would be far more terrifying than any trick. Gacy tortured his victims before ending their lives. Most were strangled, and their bodies hidden in the most grotesque manner, buried beneath his house, where he thought no one would ever find them. For years, Gacy continued his double life, attending community events by day and preying on young men by night. He even went so far as to bury 26 of his victims in the crawlspace beneath his own home. In 1978, the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Piest would be the thread that unraveled Gacy's carefully constructed web of lies. Piest was last seen leaving work to meet Gacy about a potential job. When Piest didn't return home, his family immediately suspected something was wrong. Piest's disappearance was different. His family pushed the police to investigate, and eventually, Gacy's name came up. After obtaining a search warrant, investigators made a horrific discovery: human remains buried beneath Gacy's home. What they found would shock the world: 26 bodies buried under the house. Gacy's gruesome collection of victims had been hidden in plain sight for years. Gacy was arrested, and during his interrogation, he gave chilling confessions about his crimes. He described them in cold detail, showing no remorse for the lives he had taken. In 1980, Gacy went on trial for the murder of 33 young men. His defense team attempted to argue insanity, claiming that Gacy suffered from multiple personality disorder. However, the sheer brutality and the organization of his crimes made this defense difficult to sustain. During the trial, Gacy remained unemotional, often portraying himself as a victim of circumstance rather than the orchestrator of these heinous acts. His cold demeanor and lack of remorse only further cemented his place as one of America's most notorious serial killers. After weeks of testimony, the jury took just 2 hours to return with a verdict: guilty on all counts. John Wayne Gacy was sentenced to death. Gacy spent 14 years on death row, during which he continued to paint. Ironically, many of his paintings were of clowns. These unsettling images have since been auctioned, with some collectors buying them out of morbid curiosity. On May 10, 1994, John Wayne Gacy was executed by lethal injection. His final words were cold and devoid of any reflection: "Kiss my In his final moments, Gacy remained as defiant as ever, showing no remorse for the destruction he had caused. Even in death, Gacy's legacy continues to haunt true crime enthusiasts and psychologists alike. His ability to lead a normal life while committing unimaginable crimes has led to countless studies on the nature of psychopathy and deception. What makes Gacy so frightening is his complete lack of empathy. His ability to manipulate, charm, and hide in plain sight is what allowed him to evade suspicion for so long. John Wayne Gacy's story isn't just one of murder, but of how darkness can hide behind the most unsuspecting of faces. While we remember him as a monster, it's important that we never forget the lives of the boys and young men he took. Thank you for watching. If you found this story insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into true crime stories.